Good afternoon. I hope you all can get a seat before it's so full that you don't have where to sit. Okay, so I will just start. I will go downstairs because I don't like to be on the spot. So, and I feel closer to you. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. My name is Alondra Valle, and I'm the Assessment Services Manager in Cambridge English Assessment. I have been a teacher for almost 20 years. I have taught almost every level from young learners to adults. Right now, I'm only managing the assessment services at Cambridge. I miss teaching, I need to be honest, because teaching is, I think, the most rewarding profession in the world. So I miss teaching. However, every time I have opportunities like this to be with teachers, it's really exciting because I miss the classroom and I miss training teachers. So I hope this session is useful for you. Today we will talk about development, the developing teacher. And I believe that it was the best topic today, given that some of you received your TKT certificates, which are a step towards your development, right? So when we were at the opening ceremony, I made some notes from Maestro Enrique Mendoza. He said that you all were here because of your commitment, your dedication, your effort, and because when you're a teacher, development is something that you need to put on hold sometimes, right? We all have obligations, especially economical obligations. In Mexico, teachers do not earn as much as we should. So it's difficult to think about development if you are not in an institution that cares about development, right? So, however, we always ask our students to keep developing, and that's what we do every day in the classroom. We go to the classroom because we want our students to develop. We want to have students who can communicate outside the classroom. For example, we want a student who thanks her boyfriend in an opening ceremony, which was the cutest thing ever. So that's what we do. We develop people and we impact the lives of students. So we need to keep developing. So I will start today with this. Bear in mind commitment, dedication, and effort, and sometimes sleepless nights, right? Okay, the next one, please. I will start with this image, which is a little blurry, but the image is from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Are you familiar with the book, the movie, etc., etc.? Yes? Okay. So this image is when Alice meets the Cheshire cat. It's always tricky, that word. So they have an exchange, they have a conversation. And Alice tells the cat, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" And the cat tells her, "That depends on a good deal on where you want to go." And then Alice says, "I don't much care where." And then the cat, "Then it doesn't matter which way you go." And then Alice says, "So as long as I get somewhere." And the cat says, "Oh, you're sure to do that if you only walk long enough." So Alice knows that she wants to get somewhere, but she doesn't know where. And that is sometimes what happens with our development. That's why I wanted to include this conversation. Sometimes we know we want to develop, and we know there's more ahead, but we don't know where to start, or we don't know where to go, right? So, our session today will be about, it's really blurry. Okay, so the first aim for today will be to raise awareness of the importance of professional development. The second aim will be to consider some different ways to continue developing professionally. And the third aim will be to start the process of identifying suitable development goals and considering how best to achieve them, okay? So hopefully, my expectation is that by the end of the session, you leave the auditorium with a very short development plan. Are you with me?
Yes.
Great, okay. Do you have pen and pencil? I mean pen and pencil, pen and paper? Okay, perfect. The next one, please. Okay, so there's a quote, and this quote is from the book the book that I used to plan the whole session. The book is called The Developing Teacher by Duncan Ford with double O. So he says that most teachers agree with this statement. It isn't the same thing having 10 years experience as having 1 year's experience repeated 10 times. The thing is that he states that there are two kinds of teachers. Teachers who take development into their hands and they keep moving forward and they experiment in the classroom and they record results and reflect on what they do in the classroom every day. And there are some other teachers that have a set of activities that have worked through the years, and they just keep repeating the same activities year after year without caring about students' needs, without caring about context, without caring about their own development in methodology or language, no? Because as teachers, we have two commitments, methodology and language. So he says that there are these two kinds of teachers. The thing is that development isn't possible without explicit and conscious changes in routine and activities. So the first step for you to develop is to be conscious of what you are doing every day in the classroom. To develop, you don't need to give huge leaps or huge steps in development. You can go step by step by experimenting one activity, recording results if it worked with some students and if it didn't work with another students. Sometimes we have the same level that we teach, but it's not the same group, the one you have at 7 a.m. than the one that you have at 12 p.m., even when they are the same level, right? So you need to be aware of all those aspects that influence your experimenting in the classroom. So, how does development occur? There are three ways in which we develop. The first one is without you noticing that you are developing. For example, you are in your school and the coordinator of your department or the coordinator of your level leaves the position and they offer it to you. That is something that happened outside of your control, okay? So sometimes you develop without you noticing that you have developed, okay? The second way in which you develop is taking development into your hands, okay? Saying, okay, so now I have TKT, what's next? And I will tell you what's next because as I work in Cambridge, I believe that the Cambridge products are the best, so I will tell you. So taking your own development in your hands, saying, okay, from maybe next year, you did modules 1, 2, and 3, right? So maybe next year you can do modules 4 and 5, or maybe you can do TKT for young learners, etc., something else. But deciding what you want, okay? And the third way is to develop with things that happen to you. For example, I used to work at a super big private university in the country. And someday they decided that they wanted to start working with interactive whiteboards. And we bought these beautiful projectors that turn every white surface into a whiteboard. It was beautiful technology. So we had to take trainings on how to use these projectors, on how to use the interactive workbook, the website, etc., etc. So those are things that happen to you without you having control of them, okay? So after those trainings, many teachers at that university were trained in the use of technology. So it was a kind of development. Okay, so even though these three kinds of development happen, the one that we will be addressing today is the one where you take control of your own development, okay? I know that sometimes we need to push our institutions to offer something, right? So that's when you develop collectively or individually, okay? This is one of the advantages of what Duncan Ford calls the DIY development, the do-it-yourself development. The other advantage is that you are the owner of the process. You decide what kind of courses you want to take. You decide where you want to take them or when. Then another advantage is that with this kind of development, you don't depend on anything or anyone, and it's your resume, and it's your experience and your development. And it doesn't matter if you change institutions. What you are follows you everywhere, okay? And then another advantage is that we know that some schools offer many opportunities for development and some schools don't. So when you take ownership of your own development, you decide, okay? I know there are some ideal scenarios. I know sometimes we have the money and sometimes we don't. But if we have a plan, we widen the possibilities of development, okay? So, Duncan Ford says that there are 5 circles of development. We know that we don't develop in a linear way. We develop sometimes in one area, and then we set aside another area. So, according to this author, there are 5 circles of development. The first one, of course, it's you, which is the most important. Then, you and your students, when you develop on teaching strategies, or when you start being aware of the needs, of the particular needs of your students. Then you and your colleagues, when you are able to be a mentor, for example, for other teachers, when you have more years of experience, and then other teachers start asking you for different activities, or maybe they know that your students learn a lot with you in the classroom, and they tell you, what are you doing? And when you start sharing all this experience, it's when you start developing others, okay? Then you develop for you and your school. For example, presenting a workshop at your school, or presenting a new project of development at your school, or maybe proposing some new books for the library in your school, and things like that. And the last circle is you and your profession. When you are able to present at forums like this one, for example, where you address many teachers, but not only teachers, but also decision makers like directors, members of some boards, etc. Okay? Today we will focus on the first circle, which is you, because I want you to leave with your short development plan. Okay? The next one, please. Okay, so this is where we start the activity. The first task, I need you, for this task, I need you to have your pen and your paper or notebook or whatever you have, okay? Is it ready? Perfect. I will read the instructions, and if you have any questions, please let me know, okay? For this task, I need you to look at the grid below. You will do on the left side of your notebook, you will make a list on the left-hand column of things you dislike about your job. Inside and outside the classroom. It's not only inside the classroom, also outside. And there are some examples. For example, my long journey to work. If you live far from your school, that's something you may not like. Or the course book for my upper intermediate class. That probably is something that we have all faced at some point, that we don't like the materials, but we make the best out of them. So please, you will have 3 minutes to make your list of things that you don't like about your job inside and outside the classroom. And when the 3 minutes are over, you will listen to a bell and then you stop. Is that clear? Yes? Okay, 3 minutes, please. You have 1 minute left. Ready? Okay. I discovered this new app that has buttons and you make sounds and I love it. Okay. Do you have your list? Yes? Is everyone ready? Back there? Yes? Okay, perfect. Okay, so now the second step. Oh, this is really difficult to read. Okay. So the second step says, read through your list, and for each item in the list, decide if you can change it. Okay? So read through your list and decide if you can change that item. If you can change that item, put a check next to it, if you can change it. If you are not very sure, write a question mark. And if you definitely cannot change it because it's, I don't know, the size of the school or something like that, then a cross, okay? If you can change it, a check. If you are not very sure, a question mark. And if you can't, an X. For the third step, what you will do is to identify your X items, the items that you crossed with an X. Look at them and think about them again, very carefully. Be more optimistic and change at least one of those items to a question mark. Be optimistic, we can do it. It's Friday, we are very close to Saturday and to rest. So be optimistic. Try to change at least one to a question mark. Ready? Yes? You are very good learners. You really listen to the teacher, and that's good. Ready? Here? Yes? And the final step will be to choose one of the items with a check or with a question mark and complete the chart that you have here. Write the item and then write some notes on how you will make the change. The questions for these, for the notes are, how will I change this? When, how, and who will be involved? So, for the things that you are able to change, you need to answer, how I will change this, when, how, and who will be involved. Okay? You're just listening to me, you're not writing or anything. You have it in your mind? Okay, perfect. Very good, okay. Okay, I will need a volunteer who wants to participate. Or as usual, as our students, they just sleep down the chair and they don't want to participate, right? So, exactly. So who wants to participate? Raise your hand. A volunteer, come on. Okay, very good. What's your name? Paulina. Paulina, okay. Do you want to share what you wrote with us?
Yes.
Perfect.
I wrote a lack of cooperation among teachers.
Okay.
And I put a question mark at the end because I'm not sure if we will be able to do it. But I think that it could be done. I mean, if we all try to do it in a better way, and if we try to communicate much more than we do now, it's obvious that we can change it.
Okay, so the first question, how will I change this? How do you think you can change that?
I can change it being more supportive with my colleagues and trying to be more open-minded.
Great. When do you think this can happen?
As soon as possible. I mean, we can change every time.
So on Monday you are committed?
Yeah. I'm committed to the right.
How will this happen?
How? As I told you before, I think that it's just a matter of trying to do it, and I can do it.
It's more like a matter of will.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
And who will be involved?
All my academy teachers in my English academy.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this was a very good of a very short development plan that you have now in your hands. This is an activity from the book that I used for the presentation, but in this book you can find many activities for every circle of development. This one is very short, and this one, of course, it was suitable for the audience because there are many teachers, but there are more reflective activities that will help you decide what you want for you, your students, your institution, and your profession, okay? So now you have created your own teacher development activity. Good luck with it, and when you have done it, create another mini action plan like this one and keep going. Just like a sample, what's your name? Paulina will arrive on Monday with a new commitment to communicate more with her fellow teachers. So that's good, okay? Okay, so now that you have more or less thought about your development, can you switch the presentation, please? Thank you very much. Okay, now that you have thought about your development, I want to show you, just in case you didn't know about it, or if you knew about it, just to refresh your mind. I want to show you the Cambridge English Teaching Framework. You know that at Cambridge we love to do frameworks, right? Cambridge was involved in the development of the Common European Framework, was one of the organizations that was involved from the very beginning, and that's why all our qualifications are very aligned to the CFR. And we did the same with teaching, okay? The same that we did with the Common European Framework for languages, we did for teaching. So we have a teaching framework, and it defines the stages of development of a teacher, okay? That's the link for the teaching framework, and if you can't see it because it's really blurry, you can go to Google and just type Cambridge English Teaching Framework, okay? And what happens with this framework is that it starts from a foundation level, which is for initial teachers with a few years of experience or no experience at all. And it moves through developing, proficient, and expert, okay? And it covers different areas. For example, learning and the learner, teaching, learning, and assessment, language ability, language knowledge, and assessment and professional development, and values. So it goes from the very basic aspects of teaching to the deepest aspects of teaching, like your teaching values. What do you believe as a teacher? What are your beliefs that influence the way you teach? I don't know if you have ever reflected about that, but that's important because that's what we do in the classroom. So, according to each stage of development, there are certain characteristics for these teachers. For example, in the foundation, I will go to that one because it's clearer. In the foundation stage, yes, thank you. Okay, in the foundation stage, let me just see my notes. For example, the knowledge of methodology is not very deep, but what you do is you are not very creative at the foundation stage. You are more receptive. So you rely a lot on the course book, for example. Initial teachers tend to rely a lot on course books, and they follow the course book from the very beginning to the very end, which is not very recommended. And then in the developing stage, you start trying to experiment with some things that you have learned, or maybe you listen to another teacher with more experience and he or she shares some information and you try it in the classroom, things like that. Right now, the teachers who have received the TKT certificate are moving from the foundation to the developing stage because you certified your methodology, okay? It's not the same just saying that you teach English as having something as a Cambridge certificate to say that you actually know how to teach. So that's why it's so important, okay? And then you have the Proficient Stage, which involves presenting at conferences, for example, maybe becoming a teacher trainer. That would be, I love to train teachers. And the last stage is expert, when you write materials or when you start publishing articles or things like that. So that's when you get involved with your profession, okay? So following this framework, Cambridge, because Cambridge thinks of everything, and not because I work there, it's because I am a user of these certificates. I have every Cambridge certificate that you can imagine, except starters or movers or flyers or something like that. Cambridge has thought about every stage of development, and we have something for you in every stage. At the foundation stage, you have, if you can see, well, I hope you can see. At the foundation stage, the first course that we designed is language for teaching. Sometimes, and I don't know if it's your case, but I became an English teacher by accident. And many of my colleagues have told me similar stories, no? No, I wanted to be an astronaut. But then something happened, and I just knew how to speak English, and I started teaching in a private lessons. But then I went to a school, and then I went to a university, and now I'm an English teacher. I was going to be a lawyer, but then I became pregnant very young, and I had to start working. So the only thing I knew how to do was to speak English. So I started teaching. And then I discovered that teaching is my passion, and I just became an English teacher, and I forgot about law. So if this is your case, I mean by accident, not becoming pregnant very young, just becoming an English teacher by accident. If this is your case, we all need training, right? So language for teachers gives you this foundation that will keep you safe in the classroom, okay? Sometimes when we start teaching, our students just see how far they can go, and they go as far as you let them, no? But if you have a good foundation, it's very difficult for them to pass this line. Then we have a CELTA certificate, which is it's deeper into methodology. It's really strict, and it's usually given in 5 weeks. So you receive input in the morning, and then you teach with, we call it guinea pigs, which are students that you bring into your practices, and you teach in the afternoon. And then we have in the foundation stage also, but if you can see, it's in the foundation stage, moving on to the developing stage. We have TKT, okay? So it's starting to become developing, okay? That's why I was telling you that the ones who have their certificate today are moving on to developing, okay? And so on. So you can finish with a Delta certificate in Proficient, and then EMI skills, which is becoming very popular now, English as a medium of instruction, which is a course to help teachers who are not English teachers to give their subject in English. For example, biology, math, chemistry in English. This is becoming very popular. Schools are becoming bilingual more now, no? And universities. So they are looking for teachers who know how to teach a subject, a content subject, in English. And then we have training the trainer, which would be the expert stage in which you can become a teacher trainer, okay? So as you can see, and if one of your items has to do with methodology, one of the items on your list has to do with methodology, you can ask us, and you can approach Norma at the British Council, and she will also give you good information about the Cambridge courses, okay? Going back to the 5 circles of development, whatever you take and whatever step you follow after DKT will impact any of these circles, okay? Because, as we said at the beginning, this will become part of yourself, and it will be for your experience and your resume forever. And you will have many ways of showing that you know how to teach, or that you have a high level of language. The optimal development proof that a teacher can have is to prove methodology and language, okay? So for methodology, you already have DKT. Now start thinking about your language. If you have a B2 certificate, which is a first, well, the next step is an advanced, okay? So imagine having in your resume TKT, the 3 modules or the 5 modules, plus an advanced. So you can certify your C1 level. Remember that the B2 is first and advanced is C1, okay? And even farther, to start thinking about a C2 level, a proficiency, right? I don't know, maybe some of the teachers over here already have it, but if you don't, start thinking about developing your language, okay? So, as usual, you can approach Cambridge for any of the qualifications that you need, you or your students, because we also have the multi-level tests, like LinguaSkill or BULATs, that can also prove the level of English of your students or yourself, and the qualifications and the teaching awards that will demonstrate your skills to the world. So, what I really wanted to convey today is that development is more, it's something else than just an activity. Development is an attitude. And I hope today you leave with your very short mini development plan and start taking the correct steps to keep developing, okay? Thank you very much. If you have any questions, there's my email, and I can answer any questions you have. Thank you. Bye.